The smoke hit me before the radio did. 1 second, the air at North Ridge Trailhead smelled like wet dirt and pine. The next second, it turned sharp and bitter, thick enough to scratch the back of my throat. I stepped out of my old blue Bronco and looked west. The sky over Silverwood National Forest was not evening blue anymore. It was bruised purple, with a low orange glow rolling over the ridge like a wave. "Beck, come in." Silas's voice crackled from the radio on my chest harness. He sounded tight and rushed. I pressed the button. "Yeah, I am here." Wind shifted. "The Diablo fire just jumped the creek. It is moving fast. We are evacuating Sector 4. You need to clear out." I scanned the gravel lot. There were usually 5 or 6 cars up here at this time. Today there was only one. A silver sedan with rental plates. Engine cold. "Silas," I said. "I have a vehicle at North Ridge Trailhead. Engine is cold. Someone is still on the mountain." He swore under his breath. "They better be running." "You have maybe an hour before that smoke drops visibility to nothing." "Get out of there, Beck!" "I'm going in," I said. "Beckett," he snapped, using my full name, which he only did when he was scared. "Do not do this. Fire is not a game. We will send another team." "We do not have time," I said. I was already pulling my pack from the back seat. "Mark my GPS. If I am not back in an hour, start yelling." I did not wait for his answer. I checked my water, tightened the straps on my pack, and started up the trail at a run. The wind was stronger higher up, ripping through the pines like a freight train. Dead branches dropped around me. Ash floated in the air like gray snow. Every instinct I had from 6 years in search and rescue told me this was a bad idea. Fire moves faster than people think. It changes direction when the wind shifts. It does not care who you are. I ran anyway. The trail climbed in switchbacks through thick forest. My boots pounded the dirt. My lungs burned, but not from smoke yet. I did the math in my head. A calm hiker walks about 2 miles an hour. The scenic overlook was 3 miles out. If they were slow, or if they got scared when they smelled the smoke and left the trail, they were in real trouble. My chest tightened. A familiar memory flashed in my mind. A climber on Peak 7. A bad fall. A call that came too late. My hands on a harness that went slack. I shoved the memory down and pushed harder. The trees thinned near the old ranger kiosk above the main trail. The air looked hazy, like dirty glass. I rounded the last bend and saw the small cluster of buildings. A tiny brown restroom shack. A low porch with 2 concrete steps and a wooden railing. Someone was sitting on the second step. For a crazy second, I thought she might be waiting for a bus. She sat straight, one leg stretched in front of her, the other bent. A clipboard was pressed tight to her chest. Her white tank top was damp from sweat and the first bits of cold rain. Her dark skirt was bunched under her. Her brown leather hiking boot was already swelling around the ankle. She looked up when my boots hit the porch. She did not look scared. She looked mad. "You are late," she said. I stopped in front of her, pulling in a breath. "Search and rescue?" I said. "Are you alone out here?" "I am alone," she said, jaw tight. "And I am not a tourist. I am here on a land survey. The gradient markers are wrong." Her voice was sharp and controlled, but her hands were shaking on the clipboard. Up close I could see she was in her mid-30s. Dark hair pulled back, eyes the color of warm whiskey, watching me like I was a problem to solve. "We do not have time to argue about markers," I said. "The fire jumped the creek. We need to move now." She let out a small, harsh laugh and looked over my shoulder at the ridge, where thick smoke was starting to push over the trees like a dirty tide. "I know," she said. "I smelled it 10 minutes ago. I tried to stand. I passed out on the second step." Her chin lifted. "I cannot walk. You cannot drag me up that incline fast enough to outrun a fire. Leave me and go." Behind the kiosk, a branch snapped and fell, slamming into the dirt with a loud crack. The wind gusted hot and sharp. Even with the light rain, the air felt like an oven door opening. "Leave you," I repeated, kneeling beside her. I checked her pulse at her neck. Her skin was cool and damp. Shock was coming in, slow but steady. "Go," she ordered. "I have coordinates on my clipboard. You can radio them in if you have a spare unit. Let the fire crews know the path I took. Save yourself." She was talking about her own death like it was a line item on a report. "Ma'am," I said, leaning in so she had to look right at me, "I do not know how they do things in your city. Out here, I do not leave people behind." Her eyes flicked to my chest harness, to the search and rescue patch, then back to my face. For the first time, a crack of fear showed under her anger. "I am serious," she said. "If you try to move me, you will slow down. You will both die. That is a bad trade." "I get to pick my trades," I said. I slid one arm under her knees and the other behind her back. Her eyes went wide. "What are you doing?" "Not leaving you," I said through my teeth as I lifted. She was dead weight but solid, all tension and stubborn strength. Her hands flew to my shoulders, then locked there. Her breath hitched against my chest. "I said leave me," she protested, but her fingers curled into the fabric of my gray shirt like she did not trust her own words. "I heard you," I said, standing with her in my arms. My thighs burned as I shifted her weight and gripped her tighter. The clock was ticking loud in my head. "And I am sorry, but you do not get a vote. I am carrying you." For half a second, her whole body went stiff. Then slowly she relaxed against me. Her head settled near my shoulder. The scent of vanilla and rain cut through the smoke. "Do not drop me," she whispered, the fight draining from her voice. "Never," I said. And for the first time in 2 years, I let myself believe that I could keep that promise. I turned and started up the trail. The climb from the kiosk to the ridge was steep and slick. The rain mixed with ash and turned the dirt into gray soap. Every step I took with her in my arms was a test. My boots slipped, caught, slipped again. Her weight pressed against my chest and arms until every muscle trembled. She stayed quiet for the first few minutes, her arms looped around my neck. Her breath was warm against my collarbone. I could feel the tremor in her leg every time I shifted her. "You are strong," she said finally. Her voice was softer now, closer to my ear. "Job requirement," I grunted, stepping over a fallen log. "What were you doing off trail, Elena?" She had told me her name in one short breath while I adjusted my grip. "The markers are clear. You ignored them?" Quote, "They were not clear," she snapped, some heat returning to her words. "Someone moved the survey tags. I followed the orange flags, just like the map said. They led me straight to an unstable ridge. I slipped, twisted my ankle, and rolled. I thought I was going to go over the edge." "Moved by who?" I asked, breathing hard. "Grant," she said, and the name came out like a curse. "My former partner. We are both bidding on the Silverwood project. If I do not finish this survey by Monday, his firm gets the contract." I thought he was just ruthless. I did not think he would use the mountain as a weapon. I tightened my grip on her. The idea that someone had turned this place into a trap made my stomach burn. We crested the ridge and both saw it at the same time. The fire. It was not a distant glow anymore. It was a wall of orange, rolling along the next slope, eating up dry brush and old pine. It snapped and roared, licking at the low clouds. Embers flew in the wind like angry fireflies. "Beck," she said, her fingers digging into my shoulder. "That is the main road, right?" I looked down past the trees. The narrow black ribbon of asphalt that led back to my truck was gone behind a curtain of flame. The fire had cut us off. "Change of plans," I said, swallowing hard. My voice stayed even, but my pulse hit my ears. "We cannot go down," she said, her brain already running lines on a map. "We cannot stay here. Fire will climb this ridge fast." "There is an old fire lookout tower," I said, "about 2 miles east on the rock shelf. Old forestry outpost, stone base, metal roof. Above the tree line. If we can get there, the rock will keep the fire back." She stared at me. 2 miles, uphill. In this weather, you cannot carry me 2 more miles." "Watch me," I said. "Elena, I am 28. I run ultra-marathons for fun. I am too stubborn to die today. You are not heavy. We are going to that tower." Her eyes searched my face like she was looking for any sign I was lying. All she would find there was fear, determination, and something else I did not want to name yet. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why risk it for me?" "Because 2 years ago I lost someone on this mountain, and I still see his face when I close my eyes. Because I am tired of carrying ghosts. Because the feel of your hand on my shoulder makes me want to fight harder than I have in a long time." Out loud I only said, "Because no one dies on my watch." "Not you." She held my gaze for a long second. Then she gave the smallest nod I had ever seen. "Okay," she said. "Then carry me." The wind roared again, blowing hot smoke into my face. I shifted her higher in my arms, squared my shoulders toward the dark line of rock in the distance, and stepped forward into the storm. The first 100 yards felt like a gym workout. The next 100 felt like punishment. The rain came harder, cold and sharp, mixing with the ash so every rock turned slick. The trees thinned as we climbed toward the granite shelf. My arms burned from holding Elena. My back started to ache. My lungs were hot and tight. She did not complain once. Her arms stayed around my neck, steady, not choking me, just holding on. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, fast but controlled. Every time I shifted her weight, she hissed a little under her breath, but she never told me to stop. "You still with me?" I asked. "Sadly, yes," she said, her voice dry. "If I pass out, you have to downgrade my survey grade. Client service not great today." I laughed once, short and rough. Clients who almost get set on fire lose the right to grade anyone. She shifted very slightly to look up at me. "So you believe me," she said, "about Grant." Quote, "I believe someone moved those markers," I said. "You do not look like the type to miss a bright orange flag, and I believe you did not put accelerant on that ridge." Her hand tightened on my shoulder. "Accelerant," she repeated. "The fire," I said. "The way it jumped. The way it ran the road. It caught like something helped it." I adjusted my grip and stepped over a slick patch of rock. Silas said they were looking at a possible arson point this morning near the old logging road. Her breath caught. "Grant has a cousin on the county council," she said. "He has friends in every office. I thought he would use pressure. I did not think he would use gasoline." "We will let the sheriff deal with Grant," I said. "Our job is getting you to that tower alive." We hit a steep stretch where the trail cut across exposed rock. My boots slipped on wet pine needles and my knee slammed into the ground. Instinct took over. I twisted as I fell so my shoulder took the hit and her body stayed high. She gasped and grabbed at me. "Beck," quote. "I am fine," I said, teeth clenched against the flash of pain in my thigh. I pushed myself up again, fighting the urge to curse. "Stop wiggling. You are throwing off my balance." She froze. Then, carefully, she reached up with one hand and wiped a stripe of mud from my cheek with her thumb. The touch jolted through me, warm and soft against cold skin and smoke. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I am not used to being the one someone carries. I keep trying to help." "You are not a burden," I said before I could stop the words. My voice came out softer than I meant. "You are the cargo, and the cargo is precious." Her breath hitched. For a moment the fire sound faded, and it was just us, rain on our faces, hearts pounding in the same tight space. Her eyes searched mine, wide and bright. Then the wind roared again and snapped me back. "The tower," I said, nodding toward the ridge. "We are close." The lookout tower rose out of the smoke like something from another world, a metal box on tall legs bolted into a rock base. The stairs were open great. The structure shook in the wind but held. "It is beautiful," Elena said under her breath. "To you, maybe," I said. "To me, it looks like a night I am going to feel in my shoulders for a week." I shifted her weight and climbed. Each step rang under my boots. The wind hit the side of the tower and made the metal hum. At the top, I shoulder shoved the old door. It stuck, then flew open with a groan. Inside was one square room. Dusty windows on all sides. A beaten cot in one corner. A small wood stove with no wood. a desk with an old map taped to it. It smelled like rust and paper and old smoke. I carried her straight to the cot and lowered her down as gently as I could. My arms shook, not from emotion this time, but from pure overload. "We made it," she whispered, leaning back against the wall. "For now," I said. Outside, the fire glowed all around the base of the mountain. The rock shelf and the tower were above the tree line. That was our shield. But the wind slammed the tower again, making the walls creak and the loose window latch rattle hard. "That latch is not going to hold," Elena said, already scanning the room like a job site. Even hurt, she was working. I tied the latch down with paracord from my pack and wedged a broken chair leg under the door handle. Simple fixes. The kind that worked when everything else was chaos. The radio on my chest crackled. "Beck, do you copy?" "I'm in the old lookout tower," I answered. "One civilian with me, female, mid-30s, ankle injury. Fire is circling the base, but the rock shelf is holding it back." Silas exhaled loud enough to buzz the speaker. "You idiot," he said, voice rough and relieved. "You actually made it." "Tower feels solid," I said. "We have air. We need time." "You will have it," he said. "Weather Service says the storm front is dropping snow. It might choke the fire line near you, but your temp is going to crater. You have to stay warm. The trucks cannot reach you until the road is cleared." I looked around at our supplies, my pack. A small first aid kit nailed to the wall, no blankets, no wood. "Copy," I said. "We will improvise." Quote. The radio battery light blinked red. I turned the volume down to save power and clipped it back to my vest. "Let me see the ankle," I said, kneeling in front of her. "Do not cut the boot," she said at once, reaching down. "These are Italian leather. They cost way too much." I stared up at her. "Elena, your ankle is the size of a grapefruit. If I try to pull that boot off, you will black out from the pain. The leather or the foot. Pick one." She hesitated, biting her lower lip. Then she let her hands fall away. "Fine," she said. "Kill the boot." I took out my knife and sliced through the laces, then down the side. When I peeled the leather away, she sucked in a breath and her hand clamped down on my shoulder. I felt her fingers dig into my muscle as the swollen joint came free. "Breathe," I said, keeping my voice low and calm, "in through your nose, out through your mouth." "I am breathing," she gasped. "It just feels like fire." "Fire is outside," I said. "This is just a bad sprain, maybe a small fracture. I'm going to wrap it and brace it." Quote. I used gauze and a stiff piece of board from the broken chair to splint her ankle. Her hand stayed on my shoulder the whole time. When I glanced up, our faces were close. Her eyes were shiny, but she was not crying. She was just fighting. "No wood," I said, standing and scanning again. "It is going to freeze up here tonight." "I had a thermal blanket in my pack," she said. "Lost the pack when I fell, but my tablet case has a GPS tracker. It has the survey data and coordinates. If Grant still has access, he already knows where I am." "Good," I said. "Then the sheriff will have his trail too." She lifted her clipboard a little. "The data is in here." I recorded a voice note with the time, the slope, and the changed markers. "The sheriff will need this." "Then that stays with you," I said. I dug into my pack and pulled out my small emergency bivy sack, bright orange nylon meant for one person. I also took out the thin foil blanket rolled at the bottom. "You take the cot," I said. "I will take the floor." She frowned. "You carried me up a mountain. I am not making you sleep on cold wood while I take the bed." "You are the injured one," I said. "You get the cot." End of discussion. "I am not a casualty," she argued. Her eyes flashed. "I am a fully grown human who happens to have a messed up ankle." I stepped closer, close enough to feel her breath. The small room seemed to shrink. "You are my rescue subject," I said. "If I get hypothermia, I cannot carry you down when the road is clear. We both need to stay warm. We share the cot. One bag, body heat. That is the only plan that keeps us useful." She stared at me, her cheeks turned a faint pink that had nothing to do with windburn. She was trying to read my face, looking for any sign of anything wrong. All I had was exhaustion and the raw need to keep her alive. "Logic," she said finally, her voice softer. "Okay, we share." Night fell fast. The windows turned to black mirrors, reflecting the low orange glow of the fire below. Snow started to tap against the glass, soft at first, then harder, mixing with the wind. I heated water on my tiny camp stove and poured it into a freeze-dried meal pack. The smell of cheap beef stew filled the room. "Gourmet dining," I said, handing her the steaming metal cup. "Beef stroganoff, if the label is not lying." Her fingers brushed mine when she took it. Her hands were cold. "Thank you, Beck," she said quietly. She took a sip and made a face. "Okay, that is awful, but warm, so it works." "High praise," I said. She watched me as I sat on the floor to stretch my legs. "Why do you do this?" she asked. "Search and rescue. It is mostly volunteer, right? You could just work on houses and watch sports like normal people." "I own a small contracting business," I said. "Cabins, decks, some remodels. This is what I do with the part of me that cannot sit still. Call it rent." "Rent for what?" she asked. "For being lucky," I said after a pause. "For having skills that matter when people are having their worst day. For the guy the first did not get to in time 2 years ago." Her eyes softened. "Peak 7, she said. "They told me about that fall when I pulled permits. That was you." I swallowed. "Yeah, that was me." She held my gaze. "You are not going to lose me," she said. It sounded like she was promising me, not asking. I could not answer that out loud, so I moved to action instead. I turned off the stove, checked the latch, then sat on the edge of the cot. "Time to sleep," I said. "Storm is only going to get worse. We need the rest." I slid into the bivy sack first, then made room for her in front of me. The cot was narrow. There was no way to do this without touching. She lay on her side, back to my chest. I wrapped one arm very carefully over her waist for balance, keeping my hand flat and still. Her body was stiff at first, every muscle tight. Then slowly, as the warmth spread, I felt her relax. Her shoulders dropped, her breathing evened out. She shifted once and tucked her head under my chin like it was the most natural place in the world. "Beck," she whispered into the dark. "Yeah," I answered. "You are really warm," she said, "like a furnace." I huffed a small laugh. "Occupational hazard, quote." She reached back and set her hand on my forearm, light at first, then more sure. Her fingers traced one of the old scars there, then rested, holding me in place. "Good night, Beck," she murmured. "Good night, Elena," I said. I did not sleep. I lay there, listening to the wind slam the tower, the fire crackle far below, and her steady breathing against my chest. A fierce, sharp feeling grew under my ribs, bigger than fear and heavier than duty. Protectiveness. Want. Something that felt an awful lot like the start of falling for someone I had met less than a day ago, on a concrete step in the smoke. Outside, the world burned and froze at the same time. Inside that tiny tower, with her hand curled around my arm, I realized I did not just want her to survive this night. I wanted every morning after. When I opened my eyes, the world outside the windows was white. For a few seconds, I did not know where I was. All I felt was warmth at my chest and weight against my arm. Elena's head was tucked under my chin, her fingers fisted in the front of my shirt like she had held on all night. Then the tower creaked, the wind howled, and it all came back. Fire, smoke, the climb, the tower. I tried to move without waking her. It did not work. She stirred and winced as her injured ankle shifted. "Sorry," I said softly. "Didn't mean to jostle you." "It is okay," she murmured, voice rough from sleep. "Honestly, this is the best sleep I have had in months." She blinked, then looked at the window. "Is that snow?" I sat up slowly, pulling free from the bivy sack, and went to the nearest pane. A thick blanket of heavy, wet snow covered the rock shelf and clung to the metal supports. Down below, the fire was still smoking and glowing in places, but the nearest flames were choked out. "Snow saved us," I said. "At least from the fire." "Is this the part where you tell me we have a new problem?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, cold. "And getting off this mountain." The radio crackled on my chest, loud in the small room. "Beck, do you copy?" I grabbed it. "I am here, Silas." "Thank God," he said. "Listen, the storm front hit harder than they thought. You have a window of maybe a few hours. After that, they are calling for blizzard conditions. You stay up there past that, you might be stuck 3 days." I looked back at Elena. She was trying to sit up, her jaw clenched as she moved her leg. "Copy," I said. "What about the fire line?" "Snow knocked it down near the ridge," he said. "Road is still messed up, but rescue teams are working their way toward the trailhead. One more thing." His voice shifted, got darker. "Sheriff found your truck, and another car near the access road. Grant Miller." Elena's head snapped up. "Grant?" "He says he came up to look for his partner," Silas said. "Problem is, the boys also found accelerant near your survey markers and a cut gate on the private logging road. Fire did not jump the creek on its own. Someone gave it a path." Cold slid through my chest that had nothing to do with snow. "It was him," Elena whispered. "He tried to burn me out." My hand tightened around the radio. "Sheriff have him in custody?" I asked. "Not yet," Silas answered. "He talked his way past the first deputy and went to help search. They are trying to lock down the area. Watch your back, Beck, and get off that mountaintop." "Copy," I said. "We are moving." I clicked off and went back to Elena. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. "He did this," she said. "He moved the tags. He set the path. He knew I would follow the survey line." "And now he knows where your tablet is," I said, "because of the GPS tracking." "And that leads him to me," she finished. I crouched in front of her, resting my hands on my knees. "Listen to me. The sheriff has evidence now. Your data, their accelerant, the cut gate. He will not get away with this. But first, we have to get you down to them. I need you focused on walking, not on him." She swallowed, then nodded. "Okay, what is the plan?" "Carrying you on my arms like yesterday is not safe on this snow," I said. "I can't see the rocks under it. If I go down, we both go down. I am going to make you a crutch, and I will take as much of your weight as I can." Quote. I broke the old mop handle in the corner and patted the top with a strip of cloth from my spare shirt. Then I helped her sit on the edge of the cot and eased her foot to the floor. "Ready?" I asked. "No," she said honestly. "But let us do it anyway." I slid an arm around her waist, careful of her casted ankle, and stood with her. She gripped the crutch with one hand and my forearm with the other. Her fingers dug in hard, not in panic, but like she was anchoring herself. We took the first steps together. One hop, one slide. "Step, slide, step, slide," I said quietly, setting a rhythm. By the time we made it down the tower stairs and onto the rock, both of us were sweating despite the cold. Snow came down in thick flakes, cutting our visibility to maybe 30 feet. We worked our way toward the tree line. "This is steep, Beck," Elena said, breathing hard. "I know," I answered. "We are taking it slow. I have you." We had just reached the cover of burnt trees when a shape stepped out from behind a charred trunk. A man in a dark parka, rifle held loose at his side, snow on his hood. "Elena," he called, voice bright with fake relief. "Thank God I found you." She froze, her body going rigid under my arm. "Grant." I shifted instantly, putting myself between them, my body blocking her from his view. "Back up," I said, my voice flat and hard. "You need to walk away right now." He lifted his free hand like I was overreacting. "Easy, man. I heard the SAR calls on the scanner." He held up his phone. On the screen, I saw a map with a blinking dot. Her tablet signal led me straight here. "I am just trying to help." "The sheriff wants to talk to you about that fire," I said. "You can help him." A flicker of something mean slid across his face and vanished. "This is all a misunderstanding," he said, eyes sliding past me to Elena. "Right, Elle. You know how it is. Everyone loves a villain. We can fix this. Just give me the survey data. I will take it down." You can stay here and wait for the chopper." "The data stays with me," she said. Her voice shook, but she did not step out from behind me. "You tried to kill me, Grant." He laughed once, sharp. "Kill you? You are being dramatic. I just needed the project. You always make things personal." He raised the rifle a little. He was not aiming at us yet, but the message was clear. I did not think. "Helena, get down!" I barked. I lunged forward, my hand grabbing the barrel and shoving it aside as I slammed my shoulder into his chest. The impact knocked him backward into the snow. The rifle flew from his hand and skidded toward the edge of the slope. He wheezed, trying to draw breath. I kicked the rifle hard, sending it over the embankment to disappear into the ravine. "Stay down," I growled. For 1 second he listened. Then the ground betrayed us. Under all that pretty white snow, the earth was still soft from the fire and the rain. The edge of the slope gave way with a sick, wet crack. "Back!" Helena yelled. I spun, just in time to see the snow under her crutch collapse. Her injured leg gave out and she slid sideways toward the drop. The world narrowed to her face and the sudden empty space under her. "Elena!" I dove. I hit the ground hard, my chest slamming into the edge. My hand shot out and caught her wrist just as she slid past. Her body hung over a 10-foot fall into a rocky creek bed, her hair brushing the air. Pain ripped through my shoulder as all her weight jerked on my arm. My boots dug into mud and roots, searching for something solid. "Let go!" she gasped, looking at the drop below. "You are going to fall too. I told you to leave me." "I am not dropping you," I said. My teeth were clenched so hard my jaw hurt. "I am not losing you." I pulled. It felt like trying to lift the entire mountain. My muscles screamed. The root under my left boot shifted, then held. Inch by inch, I hauled her up, dragging her across snow and dirt until she was close enough that I could grab her jacket with my free hand and roll us both away from the edge. We ended up on our backs in the snow, tangled together, both gasping for air. My arms shook so hard I could barely push up on one elbow. She turned her head toward me. Her eyes were wet, but not from the wind. "You do not get to tell me to leave you," I said, my voice rough. "I cannot take another loss, Elena. I cannot lose you." Her hand found my wrist and wrapped around it, firm and sure, like she was closing a circuit. "Then do not," she said. 2 words, steady as steel. A choice, not a plea. I glanced up. Grant was gone, vanished back through the trees. Fine. Let the sheriff chase him. My job was right here. Elena was shaking now, not just from cold, but from shock and pain. Her lips were turning pale. Hypothermia was coming in fast. "I cannot," she whispered. "Beck, I cannot move anymore. My leg. I cannot." "Yes, you can," I said, but even I could hear the strain in my voice. She shook her head weakly. "Leave me here. Go get help. You can move faster alone. I am holding you back." I pushed myself up and knelt in front of her. Snow stuck to my jeans. My knees burned. "Look at me," I said. Her eyes met mine, glassy and tired. "You are the toughest person I have ever met," I said. "You survived a fire, a fall, a night in a freezing tower, and a man with a gun. You are not quitting now. I am not leaving you. So we do this my way." Quote. I turned around and crouched, presenting my back to her. "Get on," I said. "Beck," she whispered. "You cannot carry me again, not through this snow. It is too far." "Get on," I repeated. "I am not asking." For a second she did not move. Then she set her jaw, pushed up on her arms, and looped her arms around my neck. I hooked my hands under her thighs and stood. My legs screamed, but they held. Behind us, through the trees, a distant shout echoed. A man's voice, angry and far away. I did not look back. I just walked. The last mile felt like walking through a bad dream. The snow was almost to my knees in some places. My legs went numb. My shoulders burned. Elena's heartbeat thudded faintly against my back through my jacket. "Do not let me go," she mumbled once, half asleep from exhaustion. "I have you," I rasped, my throat raw. "Always." I focused on the sound of my own boots. Left, right, left, right. Carry her. Carry her. The trees finally thinned. We broke out of the forest into a clearing near the lower access road. Red and blue lights flashed through the snow. An ambulance, a fire truck. Silas running toward us, his orange jacket bright against the white. "I have her!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "I have her!" I did not stop until I reached the stretcher. My legs finally gave up, and I dropped to one knee as I lowered her down. Hands rushed in. Medics. A blanket. An oxygen mask. "Beck," Silas said, grabbing my shoulders. "Let go. They have her now." I tried to unclench my fingers from her jacket and could not. It took real effort to peel them away. As the medics worked, Elena reached out blindly. "Beck," she whispered. I grabbed her hand. "I am here," I said. "The clipboard," she breathed. "The survey." I dug into my jacket and pulled out the waterproof pouch with her data and voice note. I held it up. "I have it," I said. "It is safe." "You are safe," she corrected, trying to smile under the mask. Then her eyes rolled back. The medic said something about vitals, and the ambulance doors slammed shut between us. The siren wailed as it pulled away, carrying her down the mountain. Snow swirled around me in the flashing lights. My arms felt empty and heavy at the same time. For the first time since I saw that silver sedan at the trailhead, I was not carrying her. But in my chest, something had settled. I was not letting her go. Hospitals always smell like bleach and bad coffee. 3 days after the rescue, I knew every scuff mark on the floor outside Elena's room. I had given my statement to the sheriff twice, walked the fire line with investigators once, and sat in that plastic chair more hours than I could count. Grant was in custody now. The sheriff had met me at the base station the morning after. I handed him the waterproof pouch with Elena's survey data, the GPS logs from her tablet, her voice note about the moved markers, and everything I had seen. Deputies found accelerant on Grant's gloves and boots. They found the cut lock on the logging gate. They pulled his truck's GPS history and saw his route hugging the fire's first path. The story wrote itself. He had tried to say it was all a mistake. Wrong road, spilled gas. But the evidence did not care. So legally, Elena was safe. Emotionally, I was a mess. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her hanging over that drop, or shivering in my arms in the tower, or going very still on the gurney as the ambulance doors closed. I told myself I had done my job. I told myself she was a client, a rescue subject, a smart city woman with a big career and big plans. I also knew the way her hand had held my wrist when she said, "Then don't." A nurse opened the door to her room and leaned out. "Mr. Vance?" she asked. I stood so fast the chair squeaked. "Yeah?" "She is asking for you," the nurse said, smiling a little. "She has been asking for you for an hour. She is very stubborn." "Yeah," I said, a surprised laugh getting stuck in my throat. "I know." I walked in. Elena was propped up against white pillows, her left leg in a cast, elevated. Her hair was clean and brushed, falling over her shoulders. Her face looked a little smaller without the smoke and dirt, but her eyes were the same, sharp, watching me. "You were leaving," she said. It was not a question. I looked down at my hands. They were scraped and healing, knuckles still raw. "I figured you needed rest," I said, "and you have calls to make. Clients, your firm, the contract." "The contract is done," she said, waving a hand like swatting a fly. "The board fast-tracked it after the fire. Grant is out. I am in. Silverwood project is mine." "That is good," I said. "You worked hard for it." She tilted her head. "You did not answer the question," she said. "Why were you leaving?" I took a slow breath. "Because out there," I said, nodding toward the window and the mountains beyond, that was survival, adrenaline. That kind of thing messes with people's heads. It makes them think they need whoever was there with them. I do not want to be a trauma echo in your life. Some mountain guy you think you care about because he carried you through a fire. She stared at me for a long time, then she blinked once, Slow. Is that what you think? She asked. This is just shock? You are 36, I said. The words felt clumsy in my mouth. You live in a penthouse in the city. You run a firm. I am 28. I live in an A-frame with a leaky roof and a dog that hates everyone but me. Our lives are not exactly in the same tax bracket. And you carried me 4 miles through a blizzard, she said evenly. You stood between me and a gun. You made sure my data survived when I was half out of my mind. You wrapped my ankle, shared your food, shared your warmth, and refused to drop me when the ground was literally crumbling under us. None of that is about adrenaline. That is about character. That does not mean we make sense, I said, but softer now. She pointed at the chair next to the bed. Sit, she said. I sat. She studied my face, her eyes moving over every line like they were reading a map. Do you want to walk out of here and never see me again? She asked. The question hit me in the chest. No, I said. It came out before I could stop it. Good, she said, because I do not want that either. Silence settled for a moment. The beep of a monitor down the hall, a distant cart rolling by, my heart pounding in my ears. I do not know how to do this, I admitted. Rescue is easy. There are rules. You assess, you stabilize, you carry. Feelings are messy. There are no standard operating procedures. Her mouth curved. We can write our own, she said. I am good with contracts, remember? I huffed out a laugh. You want to draw up a relationship contract? Not in legal language, she said. In human language. She held up her hand, counting on her fingers. Rule 1, she said. We tell the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. Rule 2. We do not run from hard things. We face them together. Rule 3. If one of us says, I am not okay, the other one listens. No ego, no pretending. She dropped her hand. You got any to add, Mountain Man? Rule 4, I said slowly. If you ever tell me to leave you again, I ignore it. Her eyes softened. Deal. Rule 5, I added. If you ever want to stop this, you say it, out loud, and I listen. Deal, she said again. Consent goes both ways. We sat there, looking at each other. Something eased under my ribs, like a tight knot slowly letting go. Beck, she said quietly. Do you want this? Me, not the story, not the fire. Me in your life, in your town, in your messy, leaky A-frame. I swallowed hard. Yeah, I said. I do more than I thought I would ever want anything again. Her eyes shone. Good, she said. Then we start there. 2 weeks later, I was on my roof fixing that same damn shingle when I heard a car pull into my driveway. Not a pickup, not a Ranger truck. A sleek silver sedan. I climbed down the ladder, heart already racing. Elena got out, maneuvering herself with crutches onto the gravel. Her cast was smaller now, a walking boot. She wore a long dark coat, hair loose around her shoulders, and rugged boots instead of heels. You are lost, I called, trying to sound calm. City is that way. She smiled, not the tight professional smile I had seen in her early, a softer one, a smile that belonged to just us. I am not lost, she said. I am surveying. I walked toward her. Surveying what? She pulled a folded paper from her coat pocket and held it out. I took it. It was a contract. Title: Silverwood Community Center. Client: Elena Reyes and Associates. Lead contractor: Vance Construction. I thought your firm was in the city, I said. It is, she said, but I can run it from anywhere. I realized in the hospital that I do not want my life to be all glass towers and boardrooms. This town needs a new community center. And there is a contractor here who understands this land better than anyone. I stared at the paper, then at her. I do not do commercial, I said. I do cabins, decks, small jobs. You carried a very difficult woman down a mountain, she said. You can handle a few subcontractors. She let the professional act drop completely then. Her eyes met mine, open and a little scared. I do not want to go back to the city without you, she said. It is cold there. It is cold here, too, I pointed out. stepping closer. "I know," she said, her voice soft, "but you have a furnace setting." I laughed, the sound breaking something quiet and hard inside me. I stepped right in front of her and reached out, careful of her balance. "Careful," she warned. "I am still breakable." "I know," I said. "That is why I will hold you." Quote. I slid my hands to her waist. She let her crutches fall into the snow, trusting me to keep her up. Her hands came to rest on my chest, fingers curling into my shirt, just like they had on the mountain. "I am not leaving you," she said, echoing my words from that first day. "Good," I said, "because I am not planning on letting you go." I waited one heartbeat, watching her eyes, giving her the chance to say no. She gave a tiny nod instead and tugged me down by the collar. I kissed her. Not with fire roaring around us, not with life-or-death adrenaline. Just with steady, grounded certainty. It was slow and warm, her lips soft against mine, her hands clutching my shirt like she never wanted to be anywhere else. When we finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against my chest, breathing out. The mountains rose behind my cabin, still scarred from the fire. Black trunks, bare slopes. But here and there, bright green shoots pushed through the ash, stubborn and alive. I looked at them and something in me matched their rhythm. "Come inside," I said, shifting my grip and scooping her up into my arms like it was the easiest thing in the world. She laughed, protesting half-heartedly. "I can walk now," she said. "I know," I answered, nudging the door open with my boot. "But I like carrying you." She looped her arms around my neck and laid her head against my shoulder, just like she had on that burning mountain. This time when she said, "Do not drop me," it came out light and teasing. "Never," I said, and for the first time in a long time I was not carrying guilt or ghosts or loss. I was carrying my future,